Just barely catches it. Now Limon is going to try and overtake on Fonseca. Fonseca gives that one up. Almost a little too wide there for Limon. Holds tough and sending it deep around the banking. And Shell Oil, he's going to take the spot back. Fonseca, that was a brilliant move. This is full drift here from the Japanese driver. Watch this. Unreal. That car should not be still going. That is just seat of your pants stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just kind of landed a little bit wrong for him, but fortunately, at least pointed in the right direction. This was crazy, though.
And hasn't been shaken, but man, they see close to that wall.
Look at it. Look at the oversteer. He looks to the inside. Michael tried to cover off. He's going to squeeze him down a little bit. Tries to open up the corner. Cut back and see if he can get the launch, and it's much quicker off. Oh, but he covers him down to the inside.
Oh my goodness, covers him down to the inside. I think there may have been a little bit of contact there, but Michael Johnson going to get the benefit of the draft here. You can see him closing down on the back of the 79. And there's the late move from Michael going down to the inside, trying to get into the braking zone.
The red mist is up for these two, and down into the braking. Can Johnson get it done? Yes, he does. Don't count out Travis. Tries to cut back. Goes the long way around. Nothing doing. No, he holds tight. He could try and get it in there. No, now he starts to fall back.
Starts to fall back. Going to try to send it a little bit on the outside of 15. Sometimes you can get a crossover there, but not going to work. He's going to have a wider line now into Turkey to try to carry a little bit more speed, but he's not going to find an easy way to try to get on by. And indeed, Michael Johnson just slides that car off the apex a little bit to prevent off any attack.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
The stats of this season for Partonen are pretty darn impressive. He's taken 6 wins in 9 races, and 5 of those are in a single streak. He has only failed to finish off the podium once. Unsurprisingly, it looks like he has the championship wrapped up. How will that shape the remaining rounds? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Jake Sperry. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Zandvoort finally finds itself back on the world stage again. For those who aren't familiar with this place, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Zandvoort. This track just to the west of Amsterdam fell into obscurity, but is getting new life in recent times thanks to a resurgence of Formula One fans in the country. Back in the mid-20th century, it hosted the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix for nearly 30 years. Granted, it was on a much faster and more flowing layout. Nowadays, the 5 different versions which are available to be run are mostly tight and technical. The shortest one is a little under a mile, while even the longest only stretches to a little over 2.5 miles. These tiny lengths, plus the narrowness of the track and its lack of long straights, make passing almost maddeningly difficult. The 2 most common spots are Tarzan, which is the first corner, and Hans Ernst, which is the final chicane. Even though it has recently been updated in the real world with more banking, even on the old track here on iRacing, it has an unusual amount of camber for a road course. The 2 aforementioned turns, along with Hugenholtz and Schieflach, allow drivers to carry more speed than you'd expect. It also gives drivers a chance to take slightly unusual lines. Like most old-school tracks, runoff is minimal. Mistakes in a few of the faster turns tend to allow no time for recovery and a big repair bill. Another unique quality is the fact that Zandvoort is literally next to the beach on the North Sea. Therefore, the sand easily blows its way onto the track surface and lessens grip. It's a tricky place to race, and even trickier circuit to win at. But with the beautiful surroundings, great history, and a mob of enthusiastic fans donning orange, you can't help but want to go visit this fantastic venue. There you see a little bit about this place, but taking a car that actually did race here to this track is going to be fun here, Jake. How do you anticipate these Lotus 79s behaving?
Well, this is a very, very difficult track for a number of reasons, and I'd say it's more difficult than the current variation they have now with the banked Arie Lurendyk corner down at the end of the track. This is going to be difficult for a number of reasons. This is a car that gets very squirrely when it comes to acceleration. As you can see from this circuit, this is a downforce circuit. This is a track which doesn't have many long straights and a lot of sweeping corners, which are going to test the limits of these Lotus 79s today. Expect most moves today to come into Tarzan. Maybe if you can't get it done there, you've got to look into the likes of Gerlach and the Hugenholtz corner. If not, you're looking at Schieflach and maybe Hans Ernst, that big S-section corner. This is a very tough, small track that's built into the dunes, and you'd say it's a little too small to be a big racing circuit, but that's part of the charm around here today.
Absolutely. And as we head over to the points scenario, as you can see, like I mentioned, look at the gap already. We've still got 3 races to go, including today. And yet to second place, it's already 171 points with a 60 maximum per round. And with drop weeks, it basically is pretty much over. But that second place, Williams, Tolinen, they're only separated by 6 points. There could be a fight there. Partonen is even here today, so it will be up to one of them to maybe try and grab that with that being open. From there, it's a pretty tight fight from 4th on down to about 9th, where drivers have only about 40 points separating them. And then you could almost really count Barry West as part of that too, there in 10th, who is here today in the top split as well. What about the team standings, Jake?
Well, no surprises with the such dominant driving of Partonen so far. It has been the Marlboro team McLaren who have been up on top. But don't count out that Olympus Cameras Wolf Racing. Yes, they use a different point system between drivers and teams, but that Olympus Cameras team is being fronted by second in the championship, Paul Williams. So expect them to get pretty close. They're racing very nicely with the Martini Racing Team Lotus team. So expect them to be in the mix. Some good battles further down. Expect it to get a little bit close between Shadow, Keep Renault Alfa and Auto Delta Alfa Romeo, and then that battle for the top 10 between Parmalat Team Brabham and then the Warsteiner Arrows Racing Team. Those two might be in a little bit of a scrap later on in this season.
As for today's race details, it's only 28 laps around here. It doesn't take too long to get around, but even still, they don't have as many as we've seen at other places. It's an open setup series, though, so as you heard Jake talking about, that could be a talking point to see who could find some speed down the front stretch while still being quick around the rest of the circuit. They also don't have a spare car, and with the barriers so close in a lot of places, that could be a big talking point if they get any sort of damage. Drive-through penalty at 17 incidents if they abuse the track limits too much, and then disqualification at 25. That said, this also is a bit of an older version of it, not just because of the banking, but there isn't all that much paved runoff either. But looks like Courtiniemi is currently on the provisional pole. He comes off of an impressive win in the Lotus 49s recently, and Tolanen about almost 2/10 off of him. It's been a good lap for Timothy Reed, good couple laps as he sits in third, but we're already just about done with this qualifying, Jake.
Pretty much. There are drivers out there who still have a lap. Geno Friche here, number one on the car, was a driver who has an incredibly high ceiling of iRacing. I would say is a classics master when it comes to this machine. He has been a Lotus 79 champion here a number of times in the past. Not quite on the pace as he was earlier on in his sim racing career, but there are drivers out there who are still getting some times in as well. George Cullinan is another one who's out there trying to get some times in on the board, but you can see moving through this middle sector, what makes this track very difficult is you've got these consecutive right-handers. This is Master's Corner here, this right, and you get it ever so fractionally wrong, you're just losing the time again and again. Third straight right-hander in a row, you finally get reprieve on the left-hand side as you take that left-hand corner, but with so many right-hand corners on this track, expect the left-hand side tyres to be the ones that struggle here today around Zandvoort.
No doubt, and looks like Frisch's first lap at 23.6 puts him into sixth place. We talked extensively about how the former, as you mentioned, master really of this car is not really adapted as well to the new tires on it and just hasn't had time to practice. But this is pretty good for him in top split. Could he go even quicker? He crosses, it's a 23.4. That's an improvement that'll put him onto the second row. This is actually the highest we've seen Gernot in quite some time. I see Cullinan with his first lap is only good enough for, well, last on the field right now at about 3/10 off the nearest car. So he's going to have to hope for much better results on this second time around. And I'm not seeing him making massive inroads on my timing and scoring. It looks like unless he's got a good second half of the lap, this might be where he sits.
Oh, and a huge slide going through turn 9 in towards turn 10. And that will pretty much send all of that time spiraling away. And this is a track where you're really having to be reliant on how much grip you have through the corners. A lot of these corners are not straightforward, Joe. You've got the track turning away. You're slightly having to turn and brake every single time you go into the majority of these corners, and that's going to cause a nightmare for drivers trying to pick their braking point because they're having to be reliant on having the car not snap on them as they go through this section. Cullinan is going to make the drive through Arie Luijendijk, of course, the famous Dutchman who won the Indianapolis 500. We are in the month of May, and over the line he goes for a 26.418. Shame, because he would have improved were it not for that slide through 9.
Yeah, and he just got it in before the time was over as we look at our starting grid now. And Topi Courtiniemi will be on the pole. Jukka Tolanen will be next to him as Timothy Reed will start from third. Gernot Friesche, great qualifying in fourth today. Paul Williams will be P5, followed by Ove Trangrade, who had a lot of adventures in the Camel Series yesterday. Pet Meyer starts from seventh, Peter Konieczny in P8. Then you've got Timothy Vaughn in ninth, and Dylan Freckleton will round out your top 10, Jake.
Yeah, it's nice to see Dylan Freckleton here today, a very accomplished driver. Pablo El Suarez has been around from forever and a day. He'll start in 11th with Barry West in 12th, a fan favourite. Keith Herner and Tamas Bartfai will start from row number 7 with Miguel Morland and Tony Tiolis on row number 7. The final two cars are Gary Ho and George Cullinan, who we saw at the back end of qualifying.
Yeah, Williams finds himself behind Tolanen on the start here, and he's even reporting potentially some connection issues. Let's hope that is not the case today here as we get ready to go racing. In fact, Tolanen's going to be our last one to the grid there on the second part of the front row. And it is relatively warm conditions here on the beach, but hopefully that won't be too much of a problem, as it looks like Tolanen's taking his sweet time. He's still got about 20 seconds before they're going to leave without him. Let's hope that is not the case here today, especially with him having the advantage over Williams to try to take that second place in the points championship. And there he is. So that means the engines will now start to rev as we get ready for round 10 in the Sunday Grand Prix Series. The lights are up and the green flag is out. Oh, Korteniemi just goes nowhere, and immediately Jukka Tolanen is past him. Looks like the battle for third between Reed and Freesia might go to Freesia as he's got the inside a little bit wide. They're almost getting to the back of Tolanen as Korteniemi having a miserable start overall, and he's going to fall down into third as Freesia somehow gets himself into second.
Oh, and there's trouble behind as well. One car around then in the grass coming out of turn number 2. That is Pet Meyer, who has gone around there in the 11, so he's in a world of trouble as they go through. Aside from that, a clean start, but it would have been a disaster for Korteniemi. Bogged down off of the start and then completely overshot the opening corner. Tolanen so lucky that he's still got a car right now, moving through the middle sector of the lap. But Freesia knows that he, in second position, has got a great start, and he's got to do well to stay with a very, very fast Jukka Tolanen there who leads this race.
And Tolanen has yet to win a race this season, so now the door is wide open. Can he step through? But Freesia is going to have to play defense because Korteniemi has been mighty fast in that Raccoon Racing car as they break down into Hans Ernst. He's going to hold ahead for the time being. And again, this is bad news for Paul Williams, who has not gained any positions, but he also hasn't lost any, Jake. He's still in 5th.
Well, that's all that matters at the moment, is that he's consistently getting off to a good start. This is the sort of track where if an incident does happen, it is very easy, as it now looks like here comes the move for second position. Korteniemi having a think to the inside of Gernot Freesia, but he can't quite get there and make that pass. He needs a little bit more of a run to give himself that reality. But as I said, this is the sort of track where mistakes can come thick and fast, and they can come from relatively nowhere in a race like this. So I'd say P5, it's not going to be the end of the world. What I will also say is that the 3 winners that we've had so far this season being, of course, Partanen, Andy T, and on top of that, Michael de Turk, all not here. We're guaranteed a new winner.
That's what we like to hear. Get some fresh faces up at the top, but who is going to be able to pick it up with none of their main rivals showing today? Right now. Ooh, yeah, big move from Korteniemi down into the infield section.
That was a big lunge, and it's one of the places you can be a little bit shadow-like with the way you can attack. Looks to have another run here, and this is probably more of a legitimate opportunity coming through now in towards that very big Hanshurst corner. Dives to the inside, muscles his way through. Freesia dancing around on the brake pedal, trying to keep the car pointed straight. Falls back into third, but over at 9, that's a secret place you can try and unsettle. It's that unsettlement at 9 which opened up the move into turn 11.
That Finn was not taking no for an answer as he really pushed his way by as we come onto the main straight, and Tolanen sets a fastest lap here early stages in this event and into Tarzan. Your order for the top 5 now are Tolanen, Korteniemi, Freesia, Reed, and Williams.
Yeah, and it's very, very congested at the front of the field. You could argue the train goes back to Timothy Vaughan, who is in 9th position right now in this race. So it's a big train. It's a big opportunity to go and make something happen. They may be starting to fragment off the back because Dylan Freckleton has been taking a few funky lines through the corners, like at the Hugenholz, for example. But look at them as they funnel on through this very fast right-hander. This is one of the most difficult tracks in the world as well, Joe, to try and renovate, because this is also the sort of place which you can say as they dive through turn 9 once again, that it is in the middle of the Dutch dunes, and there's so much wildlife that is in and around here that effectively it's a conservation area, which makes building and retaining this track such a nightmare for the organizers.
Indeed, it's very beautiful to look at, but yeah, it has to be very tough to try and make sure you're doing everything right as Freckleton goes a little deep into Hans Ernst, and that's Timothy Vaughan still behind him in the blue and white that you can see. Quite a train of cars here forming in the mid-pack. You can see about 6 of them, it looks like, up there with Freesia, Reed, Williams, Trangrade, and Konechny.
Yep, they're all there, and now here comes Timothy Reed moving to the inside on Freacher, looking for it at turn number 1 on the brakes. Uses a little bit of the pit exit line there to get to the inside, and that's no harm, no foul. He gets the move wonderfully done and moves himself up into 3rd position, and that's one of the vagaries of this element of this Zandvoort, which you can use to your advantage. You can dive to the inside and make that happen. On the new Zandvoort, pit lane comes out at the exit of turn 1.
Absolutely. Probably a lot safer. It's always hairy trying to come out of here. And, well, Freesia, it was fun while it lasted. His great start, his experience in this car paid dividends there at the very beginning, but very quickly has been shuffled into 4th. But it might not be over, because now that Reed has gotten by, Williams is breathing down his neck. Trangarade, who we know loves to race, certainly isn't going to play patient, might try and give a go at things. And then Peter back there in the 7th spot is very close behind. In fact, Ove has got a good run on Paul Williams there. Will that Honda liveried car make a go at it? Doesn't look like it.
Nope, doesn't quite get an angle, but that's very wide from Paul Williams. It opens the door up for Trengaray to maybe have a go around the outside here at the Kumo corner, leading to Ari Lurendijk. You've got to be so careful on that outside curve. It can spit you out into that section. Suddenly trying to pick up a pocket of both of them is Konechny, trying to figure this out. 2 wide, now we're 3 wide as we go towards turn number 1. Has he got the angle? Who's the bravest under brakes? And Trengarade sliding in around the outside might have just held this off. He does. They still fight for it here as they go all the way up to Gerlach corner, and ultimately 2 places lost for 2nd in the championship.
Oh, that is not what Paul wants right now, but magnificent racing from the 3 of them. However, look at Dylan Freckleton. He's cut up a lot because of all that back and forth, and he's bringing Vaughn with him. But Konechny rather, is not done with it, because Trangarade was right over his nose for a brief moment, but it looks like he was quicker through Shevelock. Maybe you could see a dive down into turn 9. He thinks about it, but then he backs out.
Oh, and he has a big slide as well to go with it, so it opens back up Paul Williams, who makes a lunge at turn 10, getting to the inside. He won't be able to put the power down as early, so watch this be too wide, and the inside line favours Konechny, but it's a right into a left, so if you can hold it around the outside, you've got a huge advantage at the 180-degree right-hander, and a huge slide again there from Konechny. He might lose 2. Freckleton takes a tap from behind. That was Timothy Vaughan getting into his left rear tyre, but ultimately holds on. Konechny still, though, falling behind Freckleton.
Can you tell this is top split? I can't believe nobody's wrecked in a 3-wide situation, and then suddenly we now had drivers making contact through Hans Ernst. Freckleton looks slow, though, on the main straight, as Peter's going to have a great run, but he's going to do it around the outside as he breaks deep into the right-hander, trying to use the banking, but he gets fed out easily.
And this is one of the circuits as well as just behind. That's Pablo Suarez and Barry West having a scrap here in towards turn 2. And Pablo Suarez around the outside has made the move stick on the fan favourite Barry West. So very nice move done, but Barry might attack up the hill. One of the things about this circuit is that the designers of this track were very inspired by the American oval scene, and that's why you get a lot of bank corners and you get a lot of different angles and cambers around this track. It makes it really unique around this place when you see corners like Tarzan, for example, the opening corner, and that parabolic banking that it has.
And I love that they kept that, even though F1 has returned. Not often the tracks will have positive camber around them anymore, but Suarez is starting to pull away now as West struggles a little too much down through the back and forth of the hairpins. In the meantime, Tolanen is still our leader up at the front, and it's at about 0.8 of a second. Kortsiniemi's making sure to make a race of it. He's not far enough away that Tolanen can relax, but he's also not close enough to attack.
I've just been looking at the last 4 laps from Kortsiniemi. They have all been solidly between a 24.3 and a 24.5. You look compared to Jukka Tolanen out there, he's been running between 24.6s and 24.9s. It tells me that Kortsiniemi is a consistent 0.3 of a second faster per lap around here on average. He is absolutely flying. He's got the bit between his teeth, making up after a bad start, and he does need to make hay while the sun shines, because we're almost already a quarter of the way through this 28 lap race, and so the focus is going to be for car number 2 against car number 3. How do you make the pass cleanly, and how quickly can you run away? There's only 1 or 2 real places you can make a pass. If Tolan can cover off the moves through both of those sections, then there may be a really good opportunity to effectively be a very impassable object here today at Zandvoort.
Absolutely. And man, you talk about the master of Gernot Frische in these cars. Well, Kortenemi might just be the master of pretty much all of the vintage cars here on iRacing, at least on the road side. As, like I mentioned, over in the Lotus 49s, he's been racking up wins over there, and he's not too shabby in the Camel Series either. So as he takes his hand to the 70s machinery and follows Tolanen down the front stretch. This lap at 24.5, Tolanen 24.8, another couple tenths chopped off.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, you see so many Finnish drivers in the classic cars doing well, as there's car off then at the penultimate corner, not ideal in the slightest then. It's going to be really slow along the back stretch. That's Barry West who's run into those troubles as he went off the road, and that was the curve I was talking about at the penultimate corner, effectively biting him in a way that he wasn't happy with. But to go back to my point, Joe, the reason why Finnish drivers are so good in these classic machines, the World Cup of iRacing, they said a few years ago, we're going to choose the classic cars because we managed to win one year, and they've stuck with it ever since, and that's why they've got such a rapport with it, because they put all the hours in to try and win that prestigious World Cup of iRacing.
I'm trying to remember how many it was, but I believe it was at Detroit. We had the top 5 were all Finns. It was just unbelievable how they had dominated that day. As we come back to our leaders once again, and Kortenemi and Tolanen have now found one another. It's within 0.4 of a second. Topi can stay close enough, but that was a poor exit off of Hans Ernst. He could have a go down the front stretch, but he's going to have a great exit out of Luijendijk now.
He certainly will do, and he just wiggles through the corner slightly. He's suffering through a bit of turbulence right now as the aerodynamic effect of these ground effect machines buffers into the back of the car in front, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to follow through the high-speed corners, and that's what makes it a difficult corner in this version. You don't have the banking to help you stay planted through the corner. You're very much relying on the grip of your tyres. Keep yourself in range, and Kortenemi might be a little bit stuck right now despite having 0.3 of an advantage. Roughly, you say that if you're within a second, you need to be a second a lap quicker than the car in front to make a move. Half a second a lap, 0.3, it's going to take a little bit longer to get there for Kortenemi. He'll only make marginal gains.
And we got to go back to the battle between Freckleton and Konecny, because Peter has been attacking multiple times on this lap, trying to go around the outside of Skivlak. Naturally, that does not work, and they stay in a line behind them. That is still Timothy Vaughn, and Vaughn has a good run through Masters. No dice, though.
No dice. It was a case of a half defense by Konecny, and it didn't open up for an opportunity moving along through, and it's a couple of stabs of a turn from Timothy Vaughn to get himself through that corner in the Parmalat Brabham. He knows that in his Lotus 79, he's got to really try and attack, and every time they go through, big slide and round they're going to go. That is what can happen. You just get one goal, and very nearly Pablo Suarez getting caught out in that as Vaughn tries to stay out of the way. It's very much a case of you find one car making a mistake at that section, you follow the same braking zone, and suddenly you get a chain reaction like that.
And there's a perfect illustration of the sportsmanship that is valued in these vintage series. Vaughn slowed up, gave up multiple positions just to allow Peter by, because he felt like he was at fault for turning him there. So it doesn't give Peter all the positions back, but it does redress the issue, at least for him. Well, that breaks up that fight a little bit, but it does not break up Tolanen and Kortenemi. Still 0.3 of a second between our leaders now, the 3 and the 2 car, who started on the front row but have reversed positions.
They certainly have, and it doesn't pay for these two right now to start battling. They've got a 2.5 second lead to the car behind, 2.1 seconds Kortenemi to Reed right now, so they've got no reason to go out there and fight. The moment they start fighting, they'll be dropping upwards of a second a lap if they run too wide through a couple of corners. So they've got to be really alert to the way this race goes and leave it to the last 2 laps or so to really make something happen, unless it is absolutely paramount clear that you can go and find a move and find an opportunity. That's what they're going to be dealing with today. And that is going to be why this race is going to be so close between now and the end of this one come lap 28 here in the Dutch Dunes.
And I tell you what, Reed, who's only 2.5 seconds behind, is probably watching eagerly, hoping that they start fighting and maybe tangle a little bit, because Reed's best finish is a single third place this season. He's already going to tie that if he finishes where he sits now. If he could steal a win, he'd be over the moon.
But you'd say Timothy Reed as well. He's not out of the woods either, because Gernot Prix has not fallen off of the back of him despite the move. The gap's 0.9 of a second across the line, and he's still very much in a race, and so too is Ove Trengerade. He's only 5.8 seconds off of the lead, top 5 split that is. And this is still going to be a race where all of these drivers are going to be close, they're going to scrap, they're going to fight, they're going to need to have that sort of understanding of what this race is. It will feel long, but it also feels like a sprint, so you have to be in the right place at the right time to capitalize if there are mistakes here on lap 11 of 28.
You know, this makes me wonder if Tolvanen is managing his tires a little bit. Obviously, it's not the wear, but the heat. We've heard DJ Clark, my usual co-com, frequently mention that that's a bit of an issue, is that you can abuse them in that sense. Is Tolvanen holding back a little bit because he's being gained upon by both Reed and Freesia, third and fourth place? It's not just Kortaniemi that's running him down.
Yeah, that's true. Kortaniemi's in a really tough position in second position because he's running in that dirty air as he gets very close, under braking and slightly having to diamond off the corner there is Tolvanen. Maybe the first sign of a mistake here in this one as they go through Gerlach and in through the very long turn 3 Hugenholz corner. Bank left-hander, always difficult to put the power down on the exit, but the issue to being in second position is that you're in that dirty air, and that means your tyres are scrubbing. You get more understeer through the corners. More understeer means that the car is spending more time through the corners, and you're actually wearing more. Look how close he gets to the back through She Black corner. He is absolutely fanging the car through these corners.
He's close. He could try something here, but he does not through 9. Maybe waiting before he gets too aggressive like that. Tolvanen, I mentioned he's not taken a win yet. In fact, I'm seeing, if this is correct, he's had 2 second places and 3 third places. So he's been on the podium plenty of times. He's been waiting for the chance, and now really is his best one.
Yeah, bridesmaid, but not the bride at this moment in time for Jukka Tolvanen. Has been waiting to catch the quote-unquote victory bouquet and then find a victory come the end. So this might be for Tolvanen a very, very tough race. It will be one at the front where the nerves will be jangling towards the end of this one. And it's a constant pressure from behind, and that sometimes can be the worst because it's a no-mistake style of driving that you're going to have to need throughout these 28 laps. You've got to be very alert, very resolute in terms of making sure you hit all your marks, and to do it time and time again, that's what makes life very difficult. One thing I will say as well, in the Finnish driving license that you get, you are automatically mandated to know how to perform a Scandinavian flick to get your Finnish license. That's why when these cars are very slidey, these drivers are very good at controlling the slides.
Absolutely, and these things do like to slide. You mentioned the victory bouquet, tongue-in-cheek, but one thing I am kind of glad that I see F1 bring back with the sprint races is that victory wreath from this era and before. Glad to see that kind of make a return. Just, I don't know, has a sort of classy feel to it to me, as that's a big slip up from Kortaniemi.
Second time in a row that we've seen Kortaniemi getting a little bit squirrely coming out of turn number 10, and it's a corner which really is inviting. You can really throw the car in, but you have to get the car planted and pointy as you come out of that section of track, because that is the second longest straight on the circuit uninterrupted, that run to Hanshurst corner. So if you're someone like Kortaniemi, that's the sort of place that I'd want to be maybe going slightly wider into on entry and trying to straighten the car up as much as possible to attack off of the exit.
Well, it sets him backwards just a little bit for now. See if he can regain on it. Reed's down to 1.4 seconds away from this battle, and then it's only about 3 seconds to Gernot Freesia. Both of them continuing to trim down. We're down at 15 laps to go. So we're just about at the halfway mark. The question is, can they continue? And if so, will they have enough time to try and make a fight of it?
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting point, is that, firstly, A, can you get close enough? And B, when is the right time to make the moves? I'm very interested in terms of that philosophy, Joe, with the battle for the final spot inside of the top 10, as Keith Herner's just run wide from 10th position on the road. This has opened the door up then for Timothy Vaughan and Peter Konechny, who had both fallen back after their incidents. Konechny's going to pick up one there from that, and that was just what we're saying. Drivers are liable to make mistakes, and there goes R2 in sympathy. Synchronized spinning.
How in the world, Bartfi and Konechny, because I could see the bad entry for Peter, but I didn't see anything what hinted at Tomasz getting ready to go around as they try and find their way back to the track. A long, long wait before they can get to the pavement, unfortunately. Let's take a look at the replay on that, because that was absolutely bizarre, but it seems the cars are not liking this stage of the race.
No, they've just both bitten too early into the corner. Konechny's going to hit the grass and lose it early on entry, and it's just a case of grabbing the curb the wrong way. It's a high curb down there at Shivlak corner for Tomasz Bartfi, and then both of these drivers go around, and that ultimately, I think you could give Olympic gold medals for.
Absolutely synchronized. That is strange for two completely different reasons, and both the drivers behind them are probably saying thank you very much. That is Vaughn and Herner now promoted up into 10th and 11th themselves, but Konechny and Bartfi are down last and second to last, unfortunately. Well, this has been an interesting race with a little bit of everything so far, but it's also been a bit of a pressure cooker with that battle for the lead just kind of simmering for the time being as the mid-pack has given us most of the action.
It certainly has, and these drivers have been close. They have been looking at opportunities inside 0.2 of a second. The last time they crossed the start-finish line, that was how close they've got. Battle on screen as well is a little bit interesting. That's Pablo Suarez losing the place to Pep Meyer. And remember, Pep Meyer was around at turn 2 on the opening lap of this race. He's recovered to be just -1 so far for the day in 8th place. This is an incredible drive by the number 11 from Club Iberia.
I hadn't even thought about that until you mentioned it, and magnificent stuff there from Pep as we got a problem for the 9 of Peter yet again.
And Suarez. Suarez has just gone off then, and that at the penultimate corner as well. So 2 drivers going around, then the 12 and the 9 in trouble, Joe. Oh!
Separate incidents, and unfortunately Suarez has more contact. And that was Miguel Moreland that got into him. It is a bit blind coming out of there, and he did back onto the course pretty much right in front of him. So Miguel, understandably irate over the radio.
Yeah, there's not a leg to stand on there for Pablo Suarez. He's trying to flick spin the car around. He's trying to get back going again because there is that pressure to keep this race going and to get things sorted. And you don't understand how tight of a circuit this Zandvoort track is, especially at that penultimate corner section. You maybe have 3 wide at best. If you're taking 2 lanes of the road, so to speak, to get the car turned around, there's not going to be much room to get yourself around. He was right on the apex, and he doesn't really have a leg to stand on there. It's a little bit clumsy, and that's the sort of thing you have to watch on your black box relative to see when cars are going to be arriving as they turn up around this track.
Speaking of arriving at turn 1, Korteniemi was the closest I think we've seen him in some time, but not able to get by on Tolinen. Also an update on Konechny. He had another spin out of the final corner. Don't need to go get a replay, but he bashed the car hard enough this time that was day over. Peter, Pablo, and Miguel are all in pit lane taking extensive repairs, and I don't think we're going to see them back out here. But we're watching the leaders, Tolinen and Korteniemi, having a big blink for a second. Let's hope that doesn't continue.
Yeah, no, that will be very concerning there behind for him, because it's the sort of thing that does distract as you go into a couple of these corners. He is trying every which way to find those moves, and slightly wide goes Tolinen here in through 9. It opens up the fence then at 10, and he's still able to put the power down ever so slightly earlier, and that might be enough to defend. Here comes the lunge to the inside. Korteniemi, room given here. Tolinen with the inside through the very tough S left-hander, and he holds on for the moment, but this is what you have got left. You've got Reed there. Look how close you can be. Courtiniemi touching the gearbox almost as he runs through Kumo corner to Ari Lurendijk.
I think they may have even actually touched, but Courtiniemi's going to get another go at things. Looking to the inside. Tolinen does not defend. Oh,
he's
and a
not
slide. Both of them come together, and there is Reed's chance. He is through. Freesia has to slow up to try and tiptoe his way past, but Timothy Reed suddenly blasts through and is your new leader.
That is what you call Lady Luck being on your side. You cannot get any closer with the way they were racing. It looked like they were going to fight tooth and nail for every inch of track. When the two come together, Reed jumps down to the inside immediately. Preacher ends up getting tangled up in it, which effectively puts him in a fight now with Tolinen right now for second position. That lead gap is now 5 seconds. That's almost insurmountable at this point.
So, can Timothy Reed get over the nerves of leading this race with only 11 to go and bring this home? And can he outpace Tolinen as well? We don't know if there's any sort of damage on the two fins. They did make the slightest bit of contact coming into the corner. Wonder if we could get a replay taking a look at it. I'd love to see it from above, because it looked to me like Topi just maybe set it in a little too deep.
He gets in deep, the back end steps around, and then the moment it goes sideways, there's not enough room, there's not enough there for Jukka Tolinen to get away from it. He's desperately unlucky in the three there. That was all Courtiniemi just outbraking himself slightly. You can see it here. This is the perfect angle. Diving in, back's going to step out, and he's just going to tag him. And that is the most awful feeling, because there was nothing that Jukka Tolinen could have done in that situation to avoid it.
And Freesia, again, you could see the brilliant job he did to not make contact himself as he had to go to the outside, then had to try and slow down because he couldn't get the car to the inside in time. That's what kept him stuck behind Tolinen in third. Trangrade's still in there. Courtiniemi has already caught them back up. He's in fifth, but he's got even more work to do now with only 10 laps and about 3 cars before he can even think about trying to go for the win.
Absolutely. Trengarade, Freesia, Tolinen, and then, of course, Timothy Reed, who is out there clear. But Reed has lost 0.6 of a second already over the course of this lap so far. So he is really struggling here to run his own pace on his own. That group behind is going to be rampaging, and Tolinen effectively is going to be there charging like a rampaging bull, seeing the Matador right in front of him. He is going to be absolutely trying to find his best lap times, and this is a very unique car for an important reason, Joe, and that is the fuel that's in this car. This car gets a lot faster as a stint runs on, despite the tire life.
Absolutely. It's so heavy at the start. They just start going faster and faster. Unfortunately, not faster that time for Reed. Still another 24.7. So that's not his best, but it is a slight improvement over the previous lap where he had to slow up to try and avoid the incident. That time, a 24.3 for Tolinen, but Topi Courtiniemi is the fastest of all of them at the back of that group.
Yeah, but they're all in the same train, running the same times. Pet Meyer going fastest as he tries to chase down a 5.5 second gap to Dylan Freckleton. That's what we like to see. We've got a race on our hands here for the minor positions in this race, but this is an important phase right now. You've got to make sure that you're applying that invisible pressure, that you're going as quick as you possibly can. And one of the things that helps this car get faster and faster is actually the ground effect that these cars have. The less fuel you have in the car, effectively the lighter it is, the more that ground effect, the air that sucks underneath the car is going to make the car bounce up and down and effectively grip down to the bottom of the road, giving you more grip, giving you the ability to run through the corners faster.
Well, this is going to be tight if this stays consistent between Reed and Tolinen, because about a half a second faster than him last time by, and he's got about 4.5 seconds to make up in 9 laps. Let's see what this one is going to be. Reed crosses the line, and this lap for him is a 24.5, slightly faster yet again. Tolinen up next across, 24.5. He's matched him. That's good news for Tim.
It certainly is. Timothy Reed, I think, has responded to the threat quite nicely. Trengarade fastest lap now with his own 24.2 out there on track. I think Timothy Reed now knows if I can keep this pace and just keep it calm and out of any trouble, that this race may just as well be his, because Tolanen's actually got to look behind him in his mirrors. He's still got Geno Friche right there. He's still going to have to look behind and be very concerned that a very experienced handler of these Lotus 79s is there and can prove to be a very tricky customer when he gets right down to it. So he'll be looking behind him, making sure he's not leaving any open and available opportunities. As Trengrade has a huge slide there through turn 9. This has opened the door up for Courtaniemi here to look around the outside. Toppy can't get there just now, but he is looking for the right way to make that pass. He's right in the slipstream here, Joe. He'll think about the inside, and lunging down at the inside, he goes for the move. And I tell you what, Trengrade left himself about, I would say, an area the size of Norway to allow Courtaniemi the chance to jump through.
Well, the Finn was not able to make it stick, though, as Ove is still ahead, but that's not going to remain for long. Look at this. Courtaniemi with a great run coming through Lyondike as they accelerate down the main straight. A good slipstream. A little bit of a look from Friche as well as he fakes himself to the inside, but Courtaniemi is for real. This is not a fake. He's going to try and go through, but the job is not done. It's going to head through Gerlach, another right-hander, and switch back into Hugen Holtz. Can he hang tough? No. Trangrade finally has to give way.
Yeah, he certainly does. That's a good move. It has brought Paul Williams onto the back of the group, though, and he'll be looking to try and jump forward and gain any points that he possibly can. He really needed victories from now to the end of this one, because he was 171 points back with 3 races to go, which means he needs victories and driver to not turn up, of course, Pauli Partanen. So ultimately for Paul Williams, 6th place, that secures the championship if it stays like this.
Indeed, and Tolanen certainly from second place won't be able to do all that much more himself. So we watch them head down towards Hans Ernst yet again. Courtaniemi, Trangrade, Williams, who are 4th, 5th, and 6th place cars. Going to be 6 laps to go, this time by at the line as well. And Reed, in fact, has not just been holding station, he's extended the gap. It's 4.7.
Oh, Trangrade!
Oh, no. Another victim of the Kumho-Lyondike combination, which has certainly caught out a number of drivers in today's race. He, however, is going to wait patiently, get it flicked around in the clear, and is slowly puttering along to return in 8th place.
And again, it's that case, Joe, of just following the lines in front, because Courtaniemi also got out on that curb. He got away with it. He was a little bit more in the gravel, was able to slow himself down quicker. Trangrade, who wasn't expecting to be out that far in terms of the circuit, bites the curb, gets the gravel, gets himself turned around, and ultimately that is him behind Pep Meyer now, down in 8th place by a good 6 seconds.
So there's Topi on your screen, up to 4th because of that. Somebody off here. Is that...
Looks like Vaughan.
Yeah, so that's for the second time in this race. Timothy Vaughan, not where he wants to be. This time, though, he unfortunately, well, fortunately for him, did not take anybody with him, but looks like it was very sketchy into Tarzan and slipped off the road. He still remains in 10th, having given up 1 spot to Keith Herner. Watching our leaders, Tolanen and Friche are getting ever closer. Again, we don't know if Yuka has some sort of damage from the contact earlier on. Friche could be trying to take advantage of that. He does look quick in a straight line, as there's our leader on screen now. Gernot almost took a little bit of a peek, and Topi Courtaniemi, now that he's been freed, sets another fastest lap.
Well, we told you, bit between the teeth, and he wants to get onto that group. Friche knows that. He'll want to get through quickly, because they've only got 5 laps remaining here around Zandvoort, and they know that this is a very, very tough battle that they have here towards the end. Of course, you got a legend in terms of classics racing on iRacing like Gernot Friche. You got Jukka Tolanen here, who's proven to be one of the great runners over the course of this season. This is a titanic battle between these two as they run on the brakes into turn 9 once again, and now that switch in towards turn 10, a very cool transfer as they go forward. And what a line by Jukka Tolanen, slides it in on the entry gets the car planted, scrubs all the speed, and he can then get the power down quicker, and it gives him a good quarter of a second here on the run to Hans Erst.
Oh, Ove Traingrade's had another problem. I don't think he hit the wall, but looks to me like Masters has caught him out. And that was one of the ones that Peter had his spin in. Konechny also showed that is a tricky little flick. You can see he's back on track. Ove still sitting in 8th position, but it's been a mistake-prone race as we come back here now to Tolinen and Frisha, but Gernot not as close this time.
No, not this time. 24-4 compared to a 24-3, so they couldn't do anything. The gap's 1.2 to Courtiniemi just behind, so they'll also be monitoring that. And Courtiniemi, well, he has no time to wait in terms of making those moves. He will reach the back of that train, and I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Topi Courtiniemi trying to make that move as soon as possible. So these two know they can't afford to tangle with each other, and Jono's been in this position many a time before with many great drivers around him. He has got to put himself into a position where he can go and he can attack, not if he's going to slide through. And there goes a car off then at turn number 1, and behind as well, Paul Williams has just gone off.
And it was Timothy Bond getting into the back of Keith Herner as, it looks like Paul Williams is going to lose 6th place. He'll fall down into 7th just as Pep Meyer takes advantage and gets yet another spot. So Pep Meyer is now a net gain from where his race began. Freckleton in front of him, though. Credit to him. We haven't talked about it, but Dylan is up 5 positions, and that is a tie for the hardest charger right now. Teolis and looks like Cullinan have also managed that.
You could argue Pep Meyer should be a hard charger because he was last by turn 2, so he's certainly having a great run. Courtiniemi again, fastest lap. We have got a race on our hands, and it's from multiple positions. There is Pep Meyer, and Josep Meyer has certainly run very, very quickly in this race. He's done well to get by Paul Williams, because especially when Williams just got going, he went to the inside, and only just did Pep Meyer get himself the chance to squeeze through. He was so fortunate in that regard, Joe, to still have a car.
Absolutely. It could have gone wrong. We've already seen that multiple times. And, well, with Topi getting ever closer to this battle for second, if he does get by Frisha, we have to remember, you mentioned tangling before. It's going to be round 2 between himself and Tolinen, and I'm sure Yuka remembers what happened last time.
Oh, racing drivers are like elephants. They never forget an incident at all. It's quite funny. I always point to Sebastian Buemi in a Formula E race where he literally went down the entire paddock saying, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. That's what it's like for sim races, except they can't go knocking on the doors of various drivers and teams. They have to do all of their communicating wherever it may be.
And coming down the main straight, Frisha, he's got to get on it pretty soon with Topi approaching very quickly, but he isn't close enough to attack on Yuka this time by. He's only got 2 laps to go. Opportunities are running out, but you could say the same for the 2 car, because he's got to get a lot closer than this.
Yeah, he certainly does, and car number 2 knows it gets tougher and tougher when they start scrapping. A 23.8 that last time by from Courtiniemi. The issue is, for the first time, Jono Friche jumps into the 23 barrier, so they're going even quicker to try and hold off the cars behind or to attack. They are absolutely hitting 100% right now, trying to win this race. It's going to come down to a fact here, Joe, of who just jumps over the quote-unquote red line of stability and puts themselves in a position where they cannot go any faster, and they go over the limit of grip.
You know these guys are going to push it as well. So who will wind up going over that edge and find themselves on the side instead of at the checkers? This looks like Timothy Reed just has to have one more calm lap, and he could have his first win of the season. I'll need to check the stats here to see if Reed has any wins. I believe he does. But look back there in that battle for P2, coming down into the first corner around the outside. Frisha is going to give a go at it. Tolinen looks like he can't defend. Brilliant move from the number 1.
And that is what you expect from a former champion of this series. Just patience personified, never showed his hand at all. And the one time he needed to make the move on the last lap, probably the only place he could go and make it, he's managed it. But the car behind Tollenan now just set the fastest lap of the race on that last go by. So he has got absolutely everything to prove. And guess what? He's all over him coming to Masters Corner.
This win is going to mean something for Timothy Reed. His stats, a mere 2 podiums in his entire Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series history, as Topi Kortaniemi is now going to try and get by Tollenan, but unable to do that. So one of those podiums that we saw this season was only Timothy Reed's second ever, and he is about to top that with his first win. There's the number 4 coming out of Hans Ernst. Just 2 corners to go as Topi Kortaniemi is going to be able to get by Tollenan. Not sure if there was contact involved in that, but the number 4 car, he picked it up when others dropped the ball, and he is going to get his first ever win here in the Sunday Grand Prix Series.
That's a great drive there from Timothy Reed from Club Atlantic in the United States. That's a huge win. It will be second for Gernot Fritsch. And I tell you what, we do need a replay of what happened there on the final lap, because Fritsch actually was the catalyst for that chain reaction and the incident for Tollenan.
And yeah, let's take a look at that replay. Unfortunately for Topi and for Yuka, this came down to Kortaniemi making contact yet again right into the back of him. If I was Yuka, I would feel a little bit aggrieved.
I would as well, because he's slowing up for the incident here, and it's blind really for Topi Kortaniemi, who's not expecting it. You can see that there was that huge slide from Fritsch over the curb of Hans Ernst, and ultimately in that position, okay, what do you do from here? He's right up underneath. He's thinking about how he gets through. And of course, when you've got a car that's going to be slow on that line going through because he's overshot the first part of that section, Joe, the natural thing for someone like Yuka Tollenan to do is sit up to wait and then go and attack off the exit of the corner. Didn't quite happen there, and he gets turned by Kortaniemi. What can you do?
Oh, this was a stunner here today. I enjoyed this one, but we've got more show yet to come. The official results as well as driver interviews will be here after the break.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Welcome back to Zandvoort. We just watched round 10 in the Sunday Grand Prix Series, and Timothy Reed managed to take his first ever win of the series after only 2 podiums before this. I cannot wait to get to talk to him. Gernot Fritsch with an excellent run from 4th to 2nd, another one that kind of picked up the pieces as the 2 drivers who looked the most likely, the fastest out there, and most likely to take the win. Kortaniemi and Tollenan were 3rd and 4th respectively, twice making contact here today. Hopefully we get to chat with them and see what they think, and hopefully they can contain the Finnish tempers a little bit, as Freckleton is going to wind up in 5th, a gain of 5 for him. Pep Meyer getting spun with a little bit of ghost contact on the very first lap to the very end of the field, and then coming back to 6th, a gain of 1 for him. He should be proud of that one. Paul Williams can officially call himself out of the championship as he finished 7th today. Ove Trangrade was 8th, and Timothy Vaughn exactly where he started in 9th. Keith Herner wound up in 10th.
I tell you what, the second half of this page is filled with drivers who are a little bit unlucky or have had a good race to get to where they need. The 2 who did, I'd say, were Tony Tiolos and George Cullinan, 11th and 12th, +5 and +6 respectively. Barry West, tough day at the office. He'll get 13th with Gary Ho, 14th, and we saw a couple of spins today for Tamas Bartfai, ultimately he will finish off in 15th. Just the 3 retirements from this one, 2 at the same time for Pablo Suarez and Miguel Morland, the spin at Kumo Corner for Pablo Suarez, and then the subsequent rejoin, the catalyst for that. And then finally, Peter Konechny, one to forget. He'll be moving on to the 11th round of the championship, hoping for something a little bit more substantial than today.
Well, we've got Tim ready to talk to us. And after being a staple in this series, after being around for so long and only 2 podiums to speak of in your stats, Tim, what does it mean to see this win come your way?
That's great. Yeah, I thought it was going to be a long time before I got a win, but the cards were in my favor today. I feel real bad for Juka. He had really good pace. I thought he was going to win it. I know he was looking for his first win as well. So it's an unfortunate situation. But yeah, I'm just happy that I was able to keep it on track and finish in first.
Now, you saw the incident happen and unfold in front of you. You managed to avoid it. That obviously probably got your heart rate up in itself. And then suddenly you find yourself in the lead. How were you managing the nerves in those moments? Were you feeling pretty cool and collected in the car, or was your heart about to leap out of your chest?
It was constant reminder just to take it easy and just turn practice laps. This track you have to be smooth and consistent around here, or you'll end up spinning or going wide in turn 10 or something like that. So it was just, don't focus on lap times, just kind of, be consistent, smooth braking, smooth inputs, and get to the finish.
Well, you've broke that duck. What's the goal from here? Do you think more wins, or just going to see if you can start racking up more podiums?
Yeah, definitely more podiums. I think I've been working on my consistency, and I think that's getting better. Now I think I want to focus on improving my qualifying time. I think my race pace is a little better than my qual pace, so it's just something else to work on.
Well, again, congratulations, Tim, and we couldn't be more chuffed for you.
Thanks, appreciate it.
That was Timothy Reed, your first-time winner here today. And up next, Jake is going to be talking to second-place Gernot Friesche back onto the podium for him.
Yeah, Gernot, this is about experience, that drive. It was very, very calculated. It was very patiently driven. And at a track where a lot of drivers made mistakes today up near the front, you were one of the few who didn't make many mistakes at all. So talk us through how you look to approach this event and how you managed your race over the course of 28 laps today.
Hi, Jake. Well, I had a really good start. I just tried to be consistent all race long, and I saw that Dopey was clearly faster, so I didn't resist too much. And then fell back a little bit. Was lucky again with contact between Dopey and Yuka, which was a shame. I was lucky not to collect any of them, especially with Yuka starting to accelerate just as I was very close to him. So that was a hairy moment. After that, I just tried to keep the pressure higher. I thought maybe Yuka would have a little bit of worn tires after his spin, so tried to force him into a mistake and had to be patient, of course, and was lucky in the end.
Well, you got very lucky. Let's talk about that final couple of corners, because it looked like going through Hanshurst into that S section that you lost the back end. It could have very easily have been a race over. So how fortunate are you in that sense that, okay, the one mistake you did get, you had the drivers effectively run into each other behind and you managed to just about get over the line in second?
I hope that the guys having trouble behind me was not because I was running wide there. I lost the back end. I was pushing a little bit too much. I was too optimistic and tried to go for the fastest lap. So maybe that was a mistake. But yeah, at that moment it was quite confident to push the car, and yeah. So second place is quite an accomplishment for me this season.
It certainly is. You come into the championship in 5th position today. Of course, the one driver in front of you picking up the victory means that gap slightly opens, but you haven't used, well, you have used all of your drop rounds so far over the course of this season. So moving on to Silverstone 1 week from today, are you looking at this as every race is a must finish in terms of how you bring this around?
It's quite a nice track. That's really good for the Lotus 79, so I'm looking forward to that. On the other hand, it will be my last week this season. I'll be missing the last round, so I won't be able to complete 8 weeks. So yeah, I'm out of the championship. I knew that beforehand, so that's not an issue.
Well, the one thing we can say is that you did have a very big fan of yours today, Zerno. Mick Claridge was doing his very famous trip. He was cheering you on here today. So you definitely had the fans on your side for you. Before we let you go, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
I'd like to thank Pauli and Andy for not showing up, so that made it a little bit easier. Also, huge congrats to Pauli for winning the championship. Yeah, and of course, greetings to Mick Claridge. I met him a week ago and it was quite an amazing experience for me, obviously for him as well. So we had a very interesting talk. He's a super nice guy and was really nice meeting. So he's obviously following many of my races, so yeah, huge shout out to him and wish him good luck on his further journey. So see you guys.
No worries at all there. Zeno Friche joining us then, picking up 2nd position overall. And that just goes to show you, Joe, sim racing is a universal language.
It really is. It's been fun watching, and I'm eager to get to show the world some of this trip. We've been working behind the scenes on his show, which should be out soon. But we got to close up with a big thank you to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. And thanks to the team today, Jake, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Also, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. There's a link in the description below for that. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment, because next round is going to be Silverstone, a classic for this car, and that's at the Legacy version as well. It'll be Sunday, May 29th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. And up next this evening, the PRL NASCAR Cup Series goes to Texas. That'll be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.